Today, I am going to share yet another random story that you had to be there to believe it. Pure stupidity. But while I do that, I'm going to share some of my silver bullion. This story. So here in SoCal, I mean, we've got the mountains, we've got the beach. It depends kind of where you live, what your hangout spots were. But right after high school, a group of friends, we decided to go for a drive, and we decided to use my car to take that drive. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us, and I had a Volvo sedan out of high school. So a bunch of people packed into the car, driving up, and there's a place here in SoCal called Azusa Canyon. So Azusa Canyon, the basically what it is that, you know, there's the mountain range, the San Gabriel Mountains there. Azusa Canyon is basically a way into those mountains where, you know, it just goes up into the mountains. There's like viewpoints and different stuff. So like it's not common or not uncommon for people to go out there and hang out, do that kind of thing. So no drinking, no drugs, nothing like that. Just, you know, going up there, just to go shoot the bull, if you will, and just hang out. Anyway, as we're heading up there, it was actually kind of like overcast, kind of rainy. And so, again, I'm driving a Volvo, and so like it's packed with, there was 5 people in there, so 5 guys sitting in there. So, you know, I'm going slow because it's starting to rain as I'm going uphill. But as I'm going up, I see this car like coming up behind me, and the car decides to, you know, try to pass. And again, this is like a one lane in each direction type of road on a mountain with lots of curves, like blind curves. So to me, it was like, what an idiot. And that's what I was thinking. But also, I've got 5 people in the car, so I'm not gonna kill myself, you know, to either, you know, try to stop this guy from passing me or anything. You know, why start conflict? So anyway, the guy decides to try and pass me on a curve, and he does, and he just basically like zooms past me. It ended up being like maybe like an early 90s or late 80s Camaro, like one of the long ones with the long hood, and they passed me, and like it was funny because it was starting to rain, so like the visibility wasn't that good, but everybody in the car was like, oh, they passed you, they're calling you a B. So yeah, the peer pressure was real. But to me, I was like, I'm not gonna kill everybody. Like I'm driving a Volvo filled with people versus, like, you know, this other vehicle. So anyway, like we end up going up and we're driving up, and all of a sudden we turn the corner on one of these like pretty steep curves, and like the visibility again wasn't that great because it was raining, and I see like it was weird. It looked like light going up into the sky, like as if the canyon was kind of backlit. And so like as I get closer, like everybody's kind of having conversation amongst themselves. Obviously I'm driving, so I'm sitting there looking at it, and it turned out it was the Camaro. It was literally up against the side of the canyon, so they had crashed into the side of the canyon. And as we got closer, you could see that they were standing outside the car. So like we pull over because like there's not really many people up there, so we pull over just to kind of make sure everybody's all right. And again, it's not like, you know, it was just me. There was five guys in there, so like from a fear factor, not too much, not really scared of, you know, being abducted or anything crazy. But anyway, so we pull over to see like what's going on, and they're kind of it's kind of a mixed bag. So it's 2 guys and 1 female. And the female and one of the guys, like, they look like they're all right. And then there's a 3rd guy who looks like he's bleeding from his head, and he's holding something, you know, against the bleeding. So he's got like some type of fabric or something, you know, holding his head. So we're like, you know, you guys okay? What happened? Blah, blah, blah. And they're just like, oh, you know, we crashed. Da, da, da. Okay. So at that point, we're like, okay, you know, we're going to call the cops for you so they can come, you know, help you out. And they were kind of like, no, don't call the cops. We're like, okay, why not? And so while we're having this discussion, other people are coming down, through that area. So there's cars passing slowly, obviously, because the car is like kind of in the middle of the road. And they're like, just don't call the cops, blah, 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 blah. All right, whatever. So then they ask us, the car is on its side. So the car, like this Camaro is sitting literally on its side. And so they start asking us, can you help us flip the car over? And we're like we're thinking about it. We're like, is it even going to be possible to, push this car over back onto its wheels? But there were, 7 total guys. So maybe it was possible. So we're like, okay, so we start giving it a try, and we start, trying to push it, but it's just sliding because the ground's wet. So there's no friction to kind of get it to go back over on onto its tires. So we're pushing for like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, trying to see like if there's any possible way that we could get it to go over. And then we realize one of the wheels went down the canyon. So it's completely missing one of the bottom wheels. Okay, so there went that idea. So by this time, probably like 20 minutes has passed. And again, like none of us have called the police. They haven't called the police, but I'm assuming that, somebody driving by sees this as an accident. So, somebody's going to call the cops. So then this is when the story takes an interesting turn. So then the guy who had the head wound was like, I need to get out of here. And we're like, what? And he's like, I need you guys to take me down the hill. And we're like, no, sorry, we're packed. Like, we can't fit anybody else in our car. And he's like, I need you to take me down the hill. And so, like, as I looked at this dude, like, closer, the guy's got, like, a diaper on his head, like, that he's using to to stem the blood flow from his head. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. Like, we can't. Like, first of all, we can't even fit you in the car. So then the guy reaches into the car, and he grabs this, like, file box. It was like a white, one of those file boxes where the lid opens up and there's like file things inside. He has one of those. Like, so he just grabs the box and he's like, I need to get out of here. I'm on parole. And we're like, okay. Well, it's like, dude, you're just giving us more reason not to take you anywhere. So anyway, he's like insisting. And like, we're like, we just keep telling him no. So finally, we start getting back in the car because we're like, all right, we're gonna get out of here. Like, we can't just stay here. So we start getting in the car, and he's like, look, just take me down to the next like call box or whatever. He's like, and then I'm good from there. So I'm like, all right, well, this dude, like, who knows what his intentions are, but there's plenty of us here. So all right, fine, we'll just take you down to the next building down the road, and drop you off there, whether it's a gas station, whatever. So anyway, he gets in the car. The thing is there's, the back seat only has 3 seatbelts. So he's not even like belted in. Dude's like squeezed in. Like, everybody's like super squeezed in the back. And like, again, he's holding this file box, so who knows what he's got in there. But we all pile in and we start to move. And right as I start to drive away, like drive forward back down the hill, I see that there's a big Highway Patrol expedition coming up, and the Highway Patrol expedition passes me, and then he basically gets out of the truck, and like, I'm looking in my rear view because I'm not going very fast, obviously, because he's, he just got out of the car or out of the truck, and then he looks. He looks at he looks towards my direction, even though we're going the other direction, and he starts flashing his flashlight, like, hey, stop. And so, like, at first I keep rolling, like, kind of trying to pretend that I'm not seeing it, and I see him start running back towards the expedition. So I was like, okay, this dude is gonna get in the truck and come after me. So I'm like, all right. So I pull over. So anyway, the highway patrolman runs up to the car. He's like, hey, don't you know hit and run is a felony? And I'm like, I wasn't involved in that crash. And he's like, oh. He's like, okay. He's like, well, did any of you see what happened? And so I paused and I started to look towards the back seat. And I was like, I didn't even have the chance to say anything. And like I was thinking, like, what do I say? And he asked also, like, were any of you involved in anything, or like, did you see what happened? And so like I started to look towards the back, and he's like, why does that guy have a diaper on his head? And then he's like, get out of the car. So he pulls his gun on me, basically puts it in my face. He's like, everybody out of the car. So we're like, okay. So like me and my friends, we all get out of the car, obviously. But the guy refuses. So the guy with the little, case is still sitting in the back seat. Whereas the rest of us, he told us to go to the front of the car and put your hands on the hood. Okay, so all of us like stand there with our hands on the hood. And the guy that was like, take me down the hill, he's like, nah. He's like, I'm not getting out of the car. And then the cop's like, get out of the car. And he's just arguing with the cop. So then the cop is like, if you don't get out of the car, I'm going to pepper spray you. And I'm sitting there like, oh, my car. So then the cop starts pepper spraying him, and the guy starts calling him, like, he's like, I don't do anything for rookies. Da da da. You're a rookie. La la la. And like mocking the cop. So I'm like, great, this guy's gonna get shot in my car. I was like, this is a disaster. So I'm sitting there like watching this unfold, and we're all in our like late teens, early 20s. So we're like, kind of like in shock at like what's happening. So this guy's like, so then another cop rolls up. It's actually a sheriff, which the sheriff kind of like controls the area right up to the mountain right there. And the sheriff walks up and he's like, hey, get out of the car. The guy gets up and gets out of the car for the guy. And he's like, why didn't you get out of the car? What he told him, he's like, I don't get out of the car for rookies. Like, I wanted to laugh, but I was just like, oh my God, this guy. So finally the highway patrol comes over. He's like, hey, what happened? He's like, what happened? Da da da. He's like, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing up here? What happened? So we all told him the story, and we're still sitting with our hands on the hood while he's, people are passing by watching us like idiots with our hands on the hood, thinking we did something wrong. And he's like asking us all these questions. And he's like, have any of you been drinking? And so he's going down the line, like shining the light in our face. And I'm like, no. And he's like, any drugs? No. So he's going down the line, and one of my friends, he was kind of like really freaked out at the situation. He was like really scared. Instead of answering the question, he blew in the cop's face. And the cop was like, what the hell? But it was pretty funny. It was pretty hilarious. But anyway, so the cop, I think purposely, like they went over, they were talking to the other people, and he just left us sitting there for like 30 minutes, like with our hands on the hood, after we explained what happened, and he's like, he just kind of left us there, I think, to kind of teach us a lesson, maybe something like that along those lines. But in the end, he ended up just coming over and letting us know to get the hell out of there. But what was funny was the guy left the file inside inside the car. So obviously we were trying to get that out, and what he had in it was like 5 silver eagles and another diaper. So it was a pretty interesting turn of events that had some small part to do with silver, but it was very funny to us that some random occurrence like that happened to us, and something that we really didn't talk about after the fact, because we're just like, that was a total disaster. Many mistakes were made, but again, one of those unbelievable stories that somehow had a tie-in to silver.